Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Ellie. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are like moi, a fellow nursing student, I welcome you and Godspeed. I wanted to get on today. I know it's been so long since I uploaded a video, so if you are still with me, I thank you so very much. And again, if you're new, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another upcoming video from me again. That being said, today I wanted to make this video, if you couldn't tell by the title, how I personally study. It may not be how you study. It is a little unorthodox, a little bit non-traditional, a little weird, but I feel like it is very, very, very effective. I have been using this method since I hit A&P. And as we all know, in nursing school, there is so much information, especially in A&P. It is one of the harder classes in nursing school. Not the hardest, but definitely very difficult, especially with all the memorization and things that you need to be able to retain. So I figured, why not share my study habits with someone else who may have not tried it before, and it might possibly work for them too. Because once I started using this way, I was getting really great scores on my quizzes, my exams, and everything else in between. So I'm thinking maybe it might work for somebody else. If you have not seen my other video on my study tips, that is just a general video for the public, for whoever may need it. And there are other ideas in there as well. I'll link it up here above if you guys want to go check that out. But today is just going to be what I've learned, what I've uncovered about myself, and how I study now. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. I have figured out an amazing way to study that really helps all of this information that we have to memorize and retain stick. And that can be difficult, and the last thing you want to do is crash because you are just like at your wit's end. You can't memorize anything, nothing is staying, and it's very frustrating to say the least. And I was there my first few weeks. It was very hectic, very chaotic. I also have 2 children at home to take care of, and balancing all of everything else can be a lot. So this method has cut my study time by a significant amount, and I don't have to study nearly as hard or as much. Okay, so first things first, I want to share with you guys how I do my notes, because when you're in your lectures, and every professor, doctor is different in the way that they teach, just as they would be different in the way that they practice medicine. So my doctor in A&P, and I will just use this as an example because I have the most notes there since I finished that semester. Thank God, that was crazy, but I got through it, and it's not going to be the hardest class. I'm sure there'll be many more to come, but I'm glad that that is done. Anyways, so I want to show you guys my notes, and I love taking notes. I think that making them organized and pretty and nice to look at will make it better for you when it comes time to study them. I'm not a learner by writing repeatedly. There are some people out there that if they just write something over and over and over again, like 100 times, they'll just stick with them. That is not the case for me personally. I am left-handed, so I do use the right side, my creative side of the brain, a little bit more frequently. So my learning style is a little bit different from others. And other people like to just memorize things inside their head and repeat things over and over and over and over again. Watch many videos. Sometimes that helps people when it comes to trying to memorize what they're supposed to be learning. There are so many different ways to study out there. So this is just my weird way. And it starts with taking down my notes. So I do my notes really pretty, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do them. I keep them in this big white binder. This notebook that I have in my binder right here is all A&P notes, okay? And this is not where my notes begin, nor do they stop. So these are just the notes. They're like kind of like chicken scratch. I take down as much of what my doctor is telling me during our lectures because she moves quickly, and a lot of her PowerPoints are not full sentences. They are bullet points, and we have to remember what she said, wrote down the whole definition, examples, symptoms, all of that stuff down on our own. And then on top of that, she just fills in extra random stuff, when she feels like it. So it's important to get as much notes taken down as quickly as you can and as accurate, obviously, as possible. So this whole notebook is completely filled with A and P stuff. So what I do when I'm done with taking down those notes is, this is gonna come off a little crazy for you guys, but I will take out a slip here for you so I can show you exactly how I do things. Okay, for example, this is on the respiratory system. And what I do is first I take my paper and I fold it in fourths. So like hot dog ways, I fold it in fours. All right. The reason why I do this is just because looking at an entire sheet of paper like all at once, with the amount of words and definitions that we have to memorize, it can be a little overwhelming. This way, I don't have to look at my entire page all at once and be like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, because it is a lot. Okay, so the next thing I do is in my doctor's PowerPoint, she lets us have access to that. I'm sure all nursing schools do that for you to study off of. So I go off of between my notes and everything that she had listed in the PowerPoint, and I combine it all in one. Okay, and I categorize things. So like, for example, in the respiratory system, I have it broken down between the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the lungs, the bronchial tree, even, and all of everything that goes along with that. Boyle's laws, Dalton laws, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm not here to teach you guys. I'm sure you don't want to hear about it all. However, that is just how I break it down for myself. Okay, I categorize everything. It makes it nice and neat, and I color code it all. Okay, so this is how I do my notes. Okay, so I'm not really sure if this is backwards or not, but this is how I divided the lungs. Okay, so I have the base and all of my information here, all in green, highlighted the term, wrote the definition in a darker color, something like that. Okay, and then you go down a little bit further, and then I switch over to this side, so that way it's one page at a time. Okay, and I keep going down and down and down, and then I get the back side. So I will upload a copy of an example of my notes so you guys can see a little bit clearer. It's not showing up very well on the camera, unfortunately, because of all the lighting I have around the bedroom. Making sure that all your notes are nice and crisp and clean, and I put them in a sheet protector because honestly, you never know when you're going to need to take a quick glance at something again, especially in the future. So I make sure everything is in a little protective sleeve, and then I put all of it into this binder, which is what I was showing you guys earlier. Okay, and as you can tell, this is front and back. There are a lot of terms in here, and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. I mean, it doesn't stop. Okay, so this is how I've been studying for majority of my classes. All right, and this has been a great way, by just taking down notes like this. It can take a while, and be prepared for your hand to fall off, okay? But it's worth it in the end. Instead of having chicken scratch notes and trying to look at the computer, the PowerPoint, look back at your notes and go back and forth between those two things, it's easier just to have everything in one spot and being able to fold it, so it's easier for you to just focus. That's what works for me. So what I do when notes are done is I find a quiet spot, find a study place, get some snacks, whatever you gotta do. This is gonna sound crazy, you guys. Like, I like to be alone when I do this because otherwise I'm gonna sound like a crazy person, okay? But I will sit somewhere quiet on my own, no distractions, and I will say a term out loud, like for a minute straight. So I'll say something like arytenoid attached to the cricoid, false vocal cords. Arytenoid attached to the cricoid, false vocal cords. Arytenoid attached to the cricoid, false vocal cords. And I'll keep saying this for like a whole minute straight. I'll put a timer on it, everything. You can look at it while you're saying it until you're able to say it out loud without needing to look at the page. So then I'll move on to the next term and I'll say corniculae is attached to the arytenoid. Corniculae is attached to the arytenoid. Corniculae is attached to the arytenoid. Glottis are the true vocal cords. Glottis, true vocal cords. Glottis, true vocal cords. Glottis, true, so on and so forth. And then once in a while I'll throw in the arytenoid again. And hopefully I won't have to look at it because it's pretty fresh, right? I'll say arytenoid attached to the cricoid, false vocal cords. Arytenoid attached to the cricoid, false vocal cords. Glottis, true vocal cords. So I'll go back and forth between these two terms for another minute or two. I'll move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. So I'll get about 5 to 10 terms down, and then I will start mixing things up, because it's one thing to just memorize the order of your terms. When you go to take your test, it's not going to be laid out that way. It's going to be laid out very random. I mean, we've all taken tests, we know how they are, and they're not going to be laid out nice and perfectly in exact order that you memorize them in. So I'll go back in and about 10 different terms, I'll mix them up, and I will mix up the term versus a definition. You have to be able to see the term, know the definition, and vice versa. See the definition and be able to tell them what the term is. And there are some crazy terms in here, not necessarily A and PM in microbiology right now, and that has some crazy terms that I am so not familiar with, and I'm getting through it though, but it is very different than A and P. So I'll mix up the terms and definitions, and then once I feel confident that I have gotten through all of this is just for one chapter, okay? And once I've gotten through this whole chapter, then I put everything into Quizlet. And then I go through the flashcards, okay? And I try to memorize them also that way. Then I play the test game where you fill in the blanks, and then it's multiple choice. And by the time I'm done with all of that, I feel usually pretty confident in everything that I just learned. The other thing that I do sometimes when I'm finished, or when I'm done studying, or I feel very confident, is I will look at, and I've mentioned this YouTube channel in the past, especially when I was studying for my TEAS test. Khan Academy is excellent, and like I said before, they break everything down elementary and make it very, very simple to learn. And I like visuals, and PowerPoints, they just don't do it for me, they just don't. I don't do good at just looking at a boring screen with words and just listening. So if I can see the things that are happening and being put in motion, that makes life so much easier for me to follow and understand. Once I've done my notes, I've studied my notes, I have put everything into Quizlet, and I feel completely satisfied with my knowledge of my terms and my definitions, and I can replay things in all sorts of random orders, and I got it, and I got it, and I got it. Then if I still need to, I can look at Khan Academy and kind of replay some of his videos, because they do really help. Just kind of solidify everything. That way you get a visual with what's going on an intracellular level especially. And things are easier that way. So how often do I study? I study every day. You have to. You almost have to. You can have like 1 or 2 days off a week, depending on your schedule, your workload. I mean, with work, then your workload with school, how many classes you're in, if you have children, or, depending on your social life too, that plays a factor, but school has to be one of the top priorities in your life. So you really do have to study all the time. And I study, depending on the day, I'll study like an hour in the morning. And I will also have to refresh some of the other chapters that we learned in the past, so maybe an hour to an hour and a half. During the evening is when I do most of my studying, and I usually do 2.5 hours, I would say on average. Seems about right, about 2.5 hours or so, with like just no distractions. And that you usually do that around like 6. So then by the time it's 8 o'clock, I have all night to stay up and binge watch my shows and have my personal time, because I like mommy time, but I also like me time, and that is my me time. So that is how I arrange my studying. If you guys want to watch me do my notes, I would love to make a study with me video. If you think that would be something that you are interested in, let me know. That would be really fun for me, because I love my handwriting. So if you guys want to do that with me, I would love to do that with you guys, and we can study together. But meanwhile, I really hope that this way of studying, just studying out loud, resonates with some people, because I used to study in my head a lot and things just were not sticking. Like, I could study in my head and also be thinking about something at the same time. This studying out loud method helps hear my voice, but because I'm talking and listening to myself, a lot of the other key distractions, they just aren't there. And I usually would just pick a corner of the wall or an object to stare at and just repeat my terms over and over and over again out loud for as long as it takes. Another thing, if you guys are mommies, my favorite thing to do is study, and this is gonna sound weird, but study in the bathtub. I just feel like I'm like blocked off and the kids, they don't have access to me, so it's just easier that way. I don't know. It works for me, and you get to relax and enjoy yourself in a bubble bath or whatever and study, and then be on your phone, listen to music, or, you know, whatever you want to do. So anyways, those are my tips for you guys today. If it worked for you, give it a try and let me know how it goes. I would love to see any feedback on this method. Ever since I started studying this way, my grades have like gone even further than what they already were. Not that they were bad, but I remember getting a 16 out of a 20 on one of my quizzes, and I was just like totally devastated because I studied and studied and studied for so long. Like, I sacrificed my whole weekend, and just nothing that I was doing was like making it stick. And then test day came. I thought I did good on it. Apparently I did really poorly. And I'm like, I just was getting so distracted. So I started studying this way. And ever since then, it's been like flying colors for the most part, right? I'm not a perfectly A+, never get a question wrong student. You're bound to get a question wrong here or there, but this is a really good way of studying for me. And I think that it would work for a lot of other people. I just feel like studying out loud helps people retain more in the long run. Anyway, so I hope this video was helpful for many of you. Please give me a thumbs up if it was. And if you want to see more videos from me like this, I am going to be trying to make more videos on a more regular basis now that everything has leveled out with this whole corona thing. I hope everyone is safe, happy, and healthy. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another video from moi again. Till then, much love.